The only good thing about it, I list some verses out, I'm the only few never got to know. Right. I'm going to tell you a poem about our Gymkhana Club. We have bloody long meetings now because we haven't at the pub. But it was started up over 80 years ago to help raise money for the soldiers who come back from the war, to help them settle in again, give them a little bit more. And there were some bloody characters back then. Pat McLaughlin, Dave Bardley, Cliff Cummins, and the Paul brothers, 3. John Crawford, Jim Kenny, Bill Roberts, and of course old Cecil Bryan. And when you come in the gate, Hal, Sandy and Justin would meet you at the gate and they'd take 2 bob off you and say, see you later, mate. And Barry Guthrie, Hal, Barry was president for 10 years, maybe more. Nobody knew the history better. Nobody knows anymore. And J.K. had his horse pens under the tree. He had his horse pens under the tree, and he's there in the creek that he used to call for free. And he would say to us young fellas, grab that shovel and a spade, go over there and dig a hole. And dig the hole. And we would come back and say, what are we digging for? And he said, never you mind, just go and dig some more. Dig it deep right up to your knee, because you never know when I might get a tree. And he worked on the Ministry of Works, and when there was a loader near a tree, he would get them to dig it out and bring it home and put it in the boot of the Mark III. And we had to water it to keep the buggers growing, probably because of the self-bloody sowing. Keep going, great. I'll give you the second half when I think of it. How many minutes we got left? To keep the bugger growing. So we started up a horse trek 20 years ago. We started up a horse trek. The first time you say a poem's the bloody hardest. 20 years ago, and Ross and Sony were the trail bosses, and they led us, were the trail boss, and they led us through the forestry, but never got us lost. And we had some dramas back then. We had Susie in her tent. Nobody knows where the bugger went. And we had Marty, Hal, Marty Miller. When you shout Marty a whiskey, you get pretty frisky. He loves dancing and swimming his partner around the floor. And when you think he's had enough, Jesus, he comes back for and of course, Barbara and the girls, and all the guns. Jesus, we've had some laughs. How we've had some fun. And our grounds ended up probably the best ground around. The only thing with those bloody toilets, gee, those toilets were getting on a hot day, gee, it paid to stay well away. But if you needed a number 2, well, you had to hold your breath. So I went home to Koo and I said, we've got to build some toilets and we've got to build them now. And she said, well, why tell me? And I said, well, you're the president. How much money have we got? How much money have we spent? She said, well, not enough for that. You can't even buy a bloody tent. So I said, we're going to have to get some new help in. She said, there's this new young couple shifted to town, Helen and Graham is the name, and they want to join the club. And I think they have a drink because I seen them at the pub. So I thought, well, we'll get them up. And we'll shout them 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 before they get to the door. So the next weekend we get them up. And Kira said, Helen, would you like a wine? And she said, yeah, a wine will be just fine. And Graham, he'll have a beer. I'll give Kira a week, so we're halfway bloody So I said, we need to raise some money to buy some toilets. And I hear you're a gun on that bloody computer and that laptop. Because Jesus, emails and Gmails and bloody.com, I wouldn't even know how to turn the bugger on. So we had the next meeting and she said, I'll give it a go. So at our next meeting, she said, if you need to raise some big money, we've got to get 50 grand of our own. 50 grand. rang around and got all the clubs they put in. And at our next meeting, we got our 50 grand. Boy, did that make us grin. Another drink. So we already had a builder in the club. Sad Chapman was his name. Lawrence Purebred. He doesn't mind a beer either, but he doesn't let it go to his head. So I said, Chappie, can you build us a loo for 150 grand? He went, hell no, Gray, get your head out of the sand. I went, well, how much will it be? And he said, oh, more like 250. 250,000 just to have it done. I'm not building it for Donald bloody Trump. You got to do things properly, you got to do it right. You never know when you might have to go in the middle of the night. So we had to do some work ourselves, and we had to pull the pipe in and get the digger across the creek, but nobody was keen. So Jimmy said, stand back, boys. Oh, stand down, son. I thought, shit, this is going to be good. We're going to have some fun. So in Jimmy went, and he didn't mind getting in with the eels and the frogs, but he got in that bloody deep. He should have wore his togs. And we had to get the big tractor there to help pull him out. So we had a up too, just to breathe Yep, nearly at the end anyway. So our clubs ended up bloody strong. Between the Crawfords and the Cummings and the Wilson, and I hope the Kennys too. Hal will get another 80 years, and that's a pretty good bloody crew. And I won't see it because I'll be up there with two. So that's my poem about the Gymkhana Club. And I'm looking forward to the next meeting at the pub. God bless you.